way. David, we'll leave it there for the moment. We'll be back after the news coming up at 11.
And 3, 2, 1, action!
I'm an account director. That means I'm the agency's front man. I'm representing the agency to the client, and once again, the client back to the agency. And I'm out there ensuring that the agency produces the best ads that it possibly can. Ads that people will talk about, ads that will win us more new business, because that's what makes my salary better.
Turn over, please.
Chris Robson works for DMB&B, London's 4th largest advertising agency, with accounts like Fiat, Tetley, Mars and St Ivel. Each year, DMB&B are inundated with many hundreds of applications from undergraduates hungry for a job in the well-paid world of advertising.
The downside of it is it's hugely competitive. From the moment you get in, you're out there fighting, even to get a job in there to start with as a graduate. You have to be out there coming up with some spiel.
What are we looking for? We're looking for people who stand out. They've got to be alert, they've got to be inquisitive, bright, and they've got to kind of make us feel that they are persistent about getting something done. Actually, it really helps if they're good looking. I don't mean in a model sense, but I mean they've got to be attractive. This business is all about image. Here at DMB&B, what we're trying to do today is to give you a taste of the real world of advertising, and my colleagues are going to explain that.
After surviving a first-round interview, 16 hopefuls are invited back to work at DMB&B for a day. 4 jobs are going. Over the next 24 hours, the agency will listen and watch as candidates work together, devising a new advertising campaign for the Spastic Society. Success or failure depends on how they develop and present ideas. This is selection by performance.
I've got a guy called Giles Walker from Sheffield University. He stood out, for, considerably compared to most of them who, frankly, they all know about account management. They know what we're supposed to be doing. Most of them know about ads. But he was really, really switched on. He joyfully described himself as having the sperm count of a rhesus monkey, which meant you were going to consider him at least.
For me, if I don't get the job, it'll be pretty devastating. I've had a couple of knockbacks first. The best way to deal with them, really, is to have a continual stream of applications going out all the time. I mean, the second day of the interview, I finish at DMB&B. Around about lunchtime. At 5 o'clock, I've got another interview coming up over at GGT in London, which is just round the corner. That's another big agency. So that's nice because it means I'm always waiting for something through the post in the morning.
Giles Walker is 22 and runs his own mail-order business while studying for a degree in design at Sheffield's Hallam University. He got 8 out of 10 for motivation and potential in the first interview.
I mean, it's a typical sort of, possible and potential employer's wank, but he'd done a lot of things and he clearly was out there looking to see where he could go. My only reservation was that almost he'd done too much and he might find account management rather dull, actually, after all of this.
I'm going to put as much emphasis as I can on being a team member. That's a big thing. It's always stressed throughout all the applications I've made, being a team member. I think I don't know whether they will do, but I've got a sneaking suspicion they might try and group us together, 5 of us who are least likely to get on, so we'll all be squabbling and scrapping.
We expect each of you to work in a team on a project that we're going to brief you on in a minute.
The task of the 4 teams is to rename the Spastic Society. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, they must plan a relaunch of the charity and a fresh national advertising campaign.
We have our minders. You'll each be marked by one of them, and they will actually get to know you more than anybody because they will literally be virtually living with you, apart from when you eventually go home to bed for the whole time. They're looking for things like how you play as a member of a team, how you get through the problem, all those different things. It's your overall performance that we'll be looking at.
If I start with Hazel, she scored very highly all the way down, and came out with a hunch factor of 9. She's a Scottish girl, extremely likeable, very bubbly, an avid consumer of ads, a media sponge, which I thought was quite a nice way of describing her clearly. Straightforward and honest, was very clear about the role of account management, and therefore a good candidate to put forward for the second stage.
Well, tomorrow's a really big day for me. I'm trying not to be nervous, and I want to just be myself and be okay, but I just want it so much. I just want to get that job in advertising, and it's really difficult to get in.
Hazel Livingston is 22 and reading politics at Edinburgh University. She's made 5 trips down to London and been shortlisted by 3 agencies, but she still hasn't been offered a job.
I applied to every advertising agency that was recruiting graduates this year, so that was about 10. There are 2 others I've still got to apply to, so 12 in total, and about 18 speculative inquiries. It's an incredibly anxious, pressure-filled time just now. I really feel pressure from all sides.
Right, the project is actually for a client of ours, and it's the Spastic Society, because they have voted, I'm sure you've probably read, to change their name. And so this is the basis of the brief you'll be working on. It's really primarily 2 parts. It's the name, the rationale, the implementation, and then obviously the funds to take you through that. So you're maintaining the funds you had before and any incremental funds on top of that.
OK, so on to Maxine.
I mean, she was just one of those people we knew everyone would want. She had a wonderful amount of self-confidence, but she wasn't over the top. She was very easy to get on with, very easygoing. People would like her. Personable she was, wasn't she? And she had all the, she loved advertising and all those things as well.
Maxine Faulkner is 22 and has a first-class honours degree in psychology from Durham University. She's given up a successful career in modelling to try and make it in advertising. With 10 out of 10 in the first-round interviews, DMB&B think of her as a potential star.
I think, again, she sounds rather like the sort of assured candidate.
They're frighteningly confident.
Frighteningly confident. And will probably be seen all over town, but I think she sounds very good, very promising, actually.
No, I think I'll be good at the job. I think I fit the description that I read in the brochure, saying the perfect account manager had a statistician's brain but the heart of an artist, and I think that really sums me up. Also, I think I'm a good communicator, quite confident in social situations. I think I can do a lot of this liaising between all the different departments in the agency and going to see the client and persuading them to use our advertising. So, yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident.
These people have been interviewed to death. If they are asked the question, why do you want to get into advertising, one more time, I think they'll die. So instead, we're going to put them in a new business situation. For 24 hours, they will work as a new business team.
Hazel, Giles and Maxine are joined by Sean McCann, a law student from Belfast.
So, have you been to law school then?
Make it as you wish to make it.
Chris Robson, as one of DMB&B's account directors, will be their minder.
Right. Timing is key to this whole thing. You have to work out what you want to do and what you want to achieve in the time. You can stay here, and I'm not going to stop you all night as you want to. But what I suggest...
This task is much like the job they will do in the future. They will earn £12,000 a year as trainee account executives, rising to £30,000 in 3 years' time.
So what you've got to do is come up with an idea and sell the idea.
Shouldn't we first start off? I mean, basically, we've got to think of a new name.
Yes, at the agenda.
Yeah, how to... So we've got to think of a new name, first of all. So we've got to find out what's going to appeal to consumers and what's not.
Basically, they have to work out how to work together whilst actually competing for a job. We don't appoint team leaders. It's a team that has to work it out together. And they do stumble on that sometimes. We're not interested in watching people trying to kill one another off.
Well, cerebral palsy rights, something like that. Yeah. Cerebral palsy action.
Action for cerebral palsy. I mean, something that's cerebral is to do with the mind, isn't it? And it's not a disease of the mind, is it?
So we kick off with a campaign saying we're not spastics,
We're humans with a lot to give is the aspect. Be part of a solution rather than part of, yeah. Just for once. Yeah.
Better cliche she is.
I think at that stage we chuck in a couple of each.
Yeah.
I just sort of want to accept.
That's good. That's good. Accept. That's what people with cerebral palsy want to be. They want to be accepted.
I agree. I think that's good.
Right. We just basically want the name now, and we can just use
So why
things
is
from
it just
So
CPA and CP action?
Yeah.
we can have
Consensual.
sort of
Capable people.
CP. I don't know. That's not right. I was going to do something else.
It's early days. I think they're finding their feet. They're having to get used to working together as a group. Right now, bomb scare, clear the building, never see them again, couldn't make a decision. Perhaps later on it'll come clearer.
The only problem I can think of with that slogan, as it stands, is the spastics themselves, or other people with cerebral palsy, might take objection to it.
Saying they look bad. It's quite
David Levitt and Chris Robson are getting worried. Giles, Maxine, Sean and Hazel don't seem to be able to make a decision.
So you've got to really put every bugger, haven't you? Yeah. You're saying it to everybody because that is what this whole relaunch is about.
Could I just interrupt? Give me a summary, please, of where you've got to, both in terms of what you've achieved, you think, and what you're conscious that you haven't achieved. Just put me in the picture, all of you.
The worst point so far is we haven't got the name yet. We've got the crux of the campaign. We've got what we see is the perceived market we're going to attack. We've got the slogan in a primitive fashion.
Some fundraising.
We've got ideas on the fundraising side.
Got ideas on the launch.
We really need the name of the thing now.
All right.
This new.
Now, are you, you're enthusiastic, but are you getting into this? Is this enjoyable or is it an ordeal?
Oh, it's much better now.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Because we're discussing something specific, whereas before we were discussing,
Okay. Yeah, I get that impression too. Listen, of course you're here to get a job, but try very hard not to concentrate remotely on that, because at the end of this day, you're going to be assessed on how you contributed to the process of solving a very real problem for this client, all right? So you better get on and do what you're not doing, okay?
Right.
On you go.
Right, go.
You know what you think you're going to say. You know what you think you're saying it to.
Why don't we just call it something really simple, like capable people?
Okay, thank you. We're trying to make this, listen, let me just say, we're trying to make this the way it is in the business and not like some kind of exercises to try and get you a job.
Yeah.
You should get a job out of this if you play it the way we do. So don't be so polite. Go on, good luck.
Be offensive. Okay.
I've had to really remind him that in the real world he wouldn't be so polite. In the real world, basically, he'd have argued. If he didn't agree with what was being said, he'd have expressed it a bit more clearly. And he said, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I said to him, well, really? Don't tell me that. You should be telling your mates in there. So, argue it up a bit. He said, I'm too well brought up. I said, we're all well brought up, but sometimes we have to argue. So I think he's got the point.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
So we've had a daft start. We've bored him a little bit, although hopefully explained ourselves.
We're moving on from a position of campaigning for equal rights.
Which is what that was all about. You will achieve equal rights through allowing these people to get on.
To exploit their full potential.
Right.
Well, we're moving on from equal rights campaigning to...
Basically, equal rights comes afterwards. It doesn't, it flows from a changed
Yes,
attitude.
but what I'm trying to say is where the
previous
strategy's going, and the
campaigns.
last campaigns were about equal rights, so how would you like me to word that then, if you...
We've worded about 6 different ways, like any one of them would do.
What are we saying here? We're just
I was struggling
basically
with this. Let's put it down in note form in a sec, and then we'll put the sentence after that.
In truth, they're about an eighth of the way through the brief. So given that it's 11 o'clock, they've got a hell of a long way to go. So I said to them, let's understand what you want to say, who to, and develop from there and get really back to basics. Hopefully they've established the basics now. They've established a name, and then they can go on and expand the whole thing and make it a little bit more exciting and really get a good presentation together, because after all, that's what's going to win them the business. So if they haven't done that, then I'll have to prod very hard again.
And how's Giles doing?
He's talking a little bit more, still very reticent. Strangely enough, when he did talk, the piece of information he had was very helpful. But, he's not going to get clients really motivated at the moment, judging by how much he's talking. But only time will tell, and in truth, you couldn't make a decision based on what I've seen today.
And the others?
The others, both Maxine and Hazel are still fighting quite a lot, but you know, hopefully they'll sort that out as time goes on. And Sean's quite quiet too, so it's a bit of a female-dominant group at the moment.
The agency provides a late supper, but even now the candidates can't afford to relax. They have to mingle with the minders and agency directors. Charming the clients is an important part of the job. So do they have social skills and conversation? Can they maintain eye contact whilst eating salmon en croûte? Can they manage a drink under stress without spilling it?
It's a very, very difficult brief that we've been presented with, really hard. We're really having to use our brains.
I think we've all got set ideas about certain things, and it's taken a long time to sort of bash it out, but we finally got the format, so we're just going ahead trying to work it out.
I don't think I've been assertive enough for some of the elements. I think I'm in a group where we're all very much, like we said earlier, we've all got our own very distinct ideas, and it's been hard to sway from that. I think that's why it's gone on so long. I think that's partly because we don't know what the agency's looking for. Do they want us to be articulate about our own ideas, or do they want us to accept the ideas of others? It's difficult to know. Right, we've got this leader and we've got a week. Before we go to the time, this is just the campaign, not the timetable. We'll put it in time perspective afterwards. And we give it a date. We say on the 24th of April, the spastic will die. We use the same typeface as the Spastic Society. It's in black and white.
It's not ace, but isn't it all spastics will die?
What do we look at the spastic as
the idea of spastic?
Spastic as a concept.
Shouldn't be all, I think all spastics will die.
All right, put all spastics
must die. All
spastics must die.
Well, it's that they will die, though, isn't it? Not that they must.
They will.
What do you think?
Yeah, cool.
They will. They're going to.
Let's get the rest of the campaign in there.
You're now talking about the launch date. What you've identified is you want to kill spastic off, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you replacing it with? You know, let's establish up. You know, what are you doing?
The launch date is the birth of.
Don't care whether it's, you know, what is it? The birth of
CPA or whatever.
CPA.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you thought more about?
I've been thinking. I haven't come up with anything.
Okay, but this is really important because I mean, you've set me up. You've talked about, you know, who the potential targets are. You've gone into what the problem is. You're telling me you're going to kill spastic, and I'm there on the edge of my chair.
If we're going to use
where's it going?
The imagery like the spastic will die, who's going to replace him on the launch day? There has to be the big, you know, the birth of the.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I don't see a problem there.
That's okay. There's no problem with that. There's only a problem with the birth of what?
The night is but young.
Come on, you should be putting down names individually. Go on, get. There's no point talking about it. Write names down. Okay, you've got 8 minutes to crack 10 names.
Accept encompasses a big idea, and with its new name and consequently its updated image, Accept will carry the cause for CP sufferers into the future.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
That's perfect. So that will come right at the end.
That's the end message.
No,
that's it. There is a great idea here, which just needs linking up with the fundraising.
Right, okay. But no more wine, I've drunk it all. Lush.
Giles, Hazel, Maxine and Sean are the only team that hasn't gone home for the night.
How are we doing?
This is really embarrassing. I'm at a complete blank. I can't think of any other words to do with this than have been thought of before, which is why I'm looking through the dictionary.
Okay.
I don't know about anyone else.
I'm not sure what the potential really fits Selma well into the name of an organisation anyway.
Okay, so have you come up with any... You don't have to use potential in the word, you just... You come up with any thoughts that you like?
Well, I've been sort of trying to stick with it reluctantly, and it's not been very successful.
The only one I think that's the most practical is to have it known just as initials PCP, but the PCP standing for potential in cerebral palsy.
I have to say, I think that sounds quite good. Cool. £1:15, I think, sounds particularly good. But actually, I do. It captures some of the things you want, and I think it's quite positive. So I'd go with it.
Ten hours after being given the brief, Hazel, Sean, Maxine and Giles arrive back at the hotel, with several hours of work still ahead of them.
I think it's probably been the most gruelling one so far, just because, I mean, it's just gone on for so long. None of the others have gone on all night like this. They've been sort of short 45-minute, hour-long projects, whereas this is one huge project, and we've just been finding it really hard to get ourselves focused because we've had so much time. We've just been sort of going around in circles for ages. And
It's about 5 to 3 in the morning. And we have to be at the agency for 8, basically, to sort everything out before the presentations begin at 8:30, isn't that right?
I've got a few visuals to do, that kind of thing. We've got to rehearse it yet, so could be an all-nighter. I think if I go to bed now and get up at 8, I'll look bad. I'd rather stay up all night, personally. And I'll do the big A2 size visuals for the actual campaign itself.
None of them got to bed that night.
Just a sort of reprise to start with. They didn't work well as a team.
Why do we all laugh?
Opposite. They gelled a little bit more at 5 o'clock this morning back at their hotel, but I think a little was as far as it went. Bonded a little bit. Giles was, I think, the loner of the group, and there were a lot of different tensions going on throughout the evening, which shifted as time went on. So it affected sort of one's judgment, because the first part of the evening, arguably the girls were sort of more dominant and producing more and giving more. In the second half of the evening, it reversed to some extent. But quite clearly there wasn't a successful manager amongst them. Nobody really shone out. They didn't really give much credence to the data or even bother to try and do very much with it. They spent a long time arguing where they went, in fact, most of the evening. So I think the data became rather superfluous at that stage. But let's go into them individually. To start with Maxine. She took control quite early on, and I thought potentially she was going to be a very good manager and was going to handle them all quite well. But as time went on, she quite clearly didn't. Became a little irritable and became more irritable as she started arguing with Hazel, and Giles pissed her off, and Sean, she wasn't sure about where he was coming from in any case. But she did seem to be, she was quite a good, clear thinker of any of them. She seemed to be quite logical and very methodical. And wasn't bad on her feet, so one's left with a slight feeling of, she could be quite a good account person. Whether she was ever going to, spark the world and be, your next chairman is another matter. So I guess the issue on her is whether she's one of the top 4 or 5. But certainly, I mean, in the broader context, we could hold her in for the moment, I would suggest. Hazel, she had the odd good idea, but she wasn't a desperately clear thinker. And as time went on in the evening, she got less and less involved and more lost. Now, it could be it just was a bad night for her.
How would you like me to word that then?
But she really didn't come through. She was could be okay. She was average, I suppose, within the context of the whole group. But irrespective of whether it was her best night, I'm not sure that she ever had the managerial capacity or the ideas or the thought, really, to bring her into the top 10, let alone the top 4. On to Giles. He was, strangely, because I interviewed him to start with, very reticent for the first few hours. And a little later in the evening, we agreed that we'd try and push him a bit more to get him to say more. What he had quite clearly was a lot of imagination. He worked from the heart, from the gut, and you know, it all came out, and if it happened to be right, then it was going to be very, very good, but it might be wrong. And so, for me, I think we should certainly hold him and consider him.
Last night we were like really going well. So you can come through now.
It's time for the final presentation of the campaign for the relaunched Spastic Society. Whoever gets the job will regularly have to stand up and convince sceptical clients about the agency's strategy. This morning, the candidates will be judged by members of DMB&B's planning, creative and account departments.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Giles Walker. May I first introduce my colleagues, Hazel Livingstone, Maxine Faulkner and Sean McCann. We collectively represent the advertising agency Dozy Mandibles, Bottle and Bigotry. It is my further and greater pleasure to introduce my schizophrenic guests. Thus.
Hello, I'm Beryl and I'm 67. And I really appreciate what the Spastic Society does. I really think it's great that it does things for all the poor children who are disabled, and I give to them annually, especially at Christmas.
Well, I know, my name's Kev. I'm right smart at football. Anybody who's crap at football is a spaz in my book.
Hello, my name's Carol. I'm 35 and I've got 2 young kids. I don't really know what all this spastic stuff means, but I do know that it frightens me and I don't really want to find anything more about it.
We're going for a slightly controversial attack. On the 1st of May, spastic will die. We explain ourselves the week after. We go in. The spastic as a concept is dying because nobody is a spastic. It's a bad term. It gives them the wrong image, the wrong name. They don't like it, we don't like it.
We're going to have this new, positive, forward-looking campaign, this optimistic campaign that sees cerebral palsy sufferers as a source of untapped
What the candidates don't know is that the agency is looking out above all for style and persuasiveness in the presentation.
campaign ideas.
It's also important that the team's members should seem to be supporting each other.
Exactly 2 months from today.
In spite of all the anguish last night, what will count now is not so much what they say, but how they say it.
PCP. So what there will be is a sponsored bungee jump by cerebral palsy sufferers, and this will kick off very publicly and very loudly a 2-year campaign in press and posters highlighting cerebral palsy sufferers from 4 main groups that we'll be looking at.
Bit risky, let's face it. I mean, the spastic is dead, is going to provoke. But the issue here is that we were privileged enough to see them working until 5 o'clock in the morning. Bloody shambles, and it comes right. Clients don't normally see that, but what we see is a bunch of people who were looking pretty desperate at 2 o'clock in the morning, coming up with the notion of having disabled people doing some bungee jumping. A terrifying thought, I have to say, but at least it shows they've been thinking as a team.
What happens next when you leave here is in the next few hours we will sit and make our final shortlist. It's not going to be an easy decision and it'll take us quite a while. But what I want you to let me know is where you're going to be in about 3 or 4 hours' time. Because what I will do is phone every single one of you individually with good and bad news. If you could just let me know where you will be and where you'll be able to take a phone call. All right. That's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. Did any one person come up with that ignorance thing?
Yeah, I mean, that was all Giles.
That was very good.
All you could tell today.
All the stage management.
Yeah, I mean,
The only idea that was Sean's was the bungee jumping.
Yeah. Because
That's an unfortunate remark, but yes, I know what you mean.
I'd say the ignorance thing was brilliant. I mean, I thought stuff in the middle sagged horribly, but the beginning and the end, superb.
The one that surprised me with Giles, because I saw him last night when him and Sean were totally out of it. I mean, the girls had taken over, and he just didn't seem to be getting into it at all. I mean, the only way he seemed to get into it is through his drawings, and that seemed to be giving him a role when I last left it. And then this morning I thought he had very much of chairman qualities. He actually ran that group, and everybody else, because they were the best coordinating, they wanted to have the best stage share, and I really felt like he pulled them together. And I just wonder whether he's more sort of creative type person, and he should be considered for creative as opposed to account management. Because although I felt he had very good skills of bringing people together, I questioned whether he had the depth of thinking if he wasn't able to join in or bring anything in the night before.
I would say we should certainly consider that, because given his background, which is highly creative, if he wanted to do that, then we should at least hear about it. But
also, he's slightly different style. I think we go for a lot of Oxbridgey types, and I think it's quite good to have a balance.
Could we just speak a little bit more about Hazel? Although I was not particularly fond of what Hazel was doing in the group, I mean, her irritation was tangible. She got better for me, and I quite liked the way she jumped into the presentation this morning. So, you know, it'd be interesting if we could talk a bit about her, please.
I couldn't tell you a thing about her. I couldn't tell you anything. She was almost like embarrassed being up. The moment the tension went on her, she sort of fell apart. There was one chart she put up, and suddenly sort of shuddered away and went from it.
She was slightly confused and uncertain about how to act as part of a group. And actually, of all of the group, I think she was arguably the most enthusiastic about advertising. It just didn't always come out. And she was really keen to put forward ideas. And as the evening went on, what started as a really positive attitude sort of just got lost, and she got kind of upset. I mean, even when she was writing the charts, which she did for a long time, she never really thought about what she was trying to write down. She was desperate for an opinion to come from somebody else. And in fact, nobody else wanted to give it. So, you know, she struggled. And I think, therefore, you have to say, in the context of other groups, you know, which of those four really has the power to stand out? And that would leave me saying, you know, Giles and Maxine above the other two. Sean, he was sort of inconsistent, and I don't think he really had a clue what he was supposed to be doing. And the whole thing was, I think he found, was quite baffling. He wasn't a terribly good thinker, and he wasn't great in group dynamics. He didn't help, he didn't try and manage, he didn't really get involved in any of that at all. So my gut feel would go very quickly to he would be completely lost in account management.
I have to say, on the other one, Maxine, I don't know if it was my imagination, but I felt she was really quite precocious, and if she didn't get her way, she would... I mean, I don't know if I picked it up last night.
What happened last night.
Yeah. There was this sort of dismissiveness when she got sort of angry, which I thought was quite strange, and I even felt it in the presentation. Whether I was looking out for it from last night, I don't know, but there were a couple of times where she could obviously tell that Giles had taken over and was very much in control, and you could tell she almost like resented it and wanted to opt out.
I know there must be something there, because she has 2 other job offers, and so that she obviously has done well elsewhere, but she just didn't seem to perform for us on the night.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem that many of them have, both as an opportunity and as a curse. And I think she gave me the impression that she was kind of surging into the proceedings, thinking, I've got to go for this one, and then pulling back, thinking, well, I got a couple in the bag.
For me, I thought that Giles was easily stood out as the best, with a lot more personality, and, you know, he was simple and clear, and you knew what he was on about. I mean, the only thing I'd say about him is slightly, if I was a client, you might get... He's the sort of bloke that might steamroller you a bit, you know. Yeah.
He is different, and therefore we're making a call of, would I work with him? Well, I have to say, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem working with him, so I don't think we can all make that call. What we've got we haven't got consensus around the table, therefore we should get him in again. I mean, that's the only judgment we can really make.
It really is the very toughest part of the job, because they're young, and for many of them you know that perhaps they haven't got many other opportunities and many other chances, so you have to try and let them down as gently as possible, whilst giving them some words of encouragement as well, and trying to be positive for them.
Hello?
Hazel, it's Bernadette calling.
Hello.
Hello there. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
You having a bit of a rest?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm afraid it's not good news.
Yeah,
For you? Does that surprise you greatly?
Not really.
Really?
No.
What do you think happened?
I'm not too sure. I mean, the group work, I didn't feel we worked particularly well in the group.
No. I can give you what we thought was possibly happening, and what you seem to be coming across as actually someone who's a bit lost. It was almost as if you just never quite got going on it. But I hope you didn't feel that it was totally without some kind of redeeming quality for you to have come away with some other experience from it.
No, I mean, it's always good to meet other applicants anyway, so no, I'm going to look at it positively anyway, so that's okay, and thanks for phoning anyway.
That's all right, Hazel. That's
okay.
all right, and we wish you all the very best of luck. Okay?
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Hazel.
Bye-bye. She said, no, I haven't got the job.
Hazel Livingston was finally accepted by BMP Needham, London's 6th largest agency.
Hello, Benzoate Barber.
Hello, Bernadette. Giles Walker here.
Giles, hello. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah? Knackered?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, dear. But listen, I've got some encouraging news. All right?
Go on.
It's not simply, I'm afraid, to tell you that you've got the job, or for that matter, that you haven't. So take a deep breath. But what we would like you to do is actually come back to the agency, and we want to see you again for about half a day. It's actually a matter of you coming in and having a few more focused and a few more in-depth conversations with people.
Yeah.
So, can we get back to you very quickly with some dates, hopefully for next week?
That sounds good to me, yeah, fine.
Is that all right?
Yeah, fine. No problem.
Good. That's lovely, Giles. All right. Bye.
All right, then, fine.
Bye. That's it. Seems happy.
Well, that's a turn up for the books. I've got to go back again.
Giles Walker returned to DMB&B and was later offered a job as a trainee account executive.
This is the third one, but the two I've had so far, I'm really pleased because they've both offered me jobs. One was Abbott Mead Vickers, and the other one was Saatchi, who rang up yesterday actually, and offered me a job as well, which is really nice. Although at first I kind of thought, you know, getting into advertising is so hard. If I get one offer, it'd be so amazing, it'd be brilliant, I'd just take that. But now I'm very lucky to be in the position where I've actually got the chance to choose between them, and so now I'm very lucky to be in the position that I'm actually sort of interviewing them in a way as well and seeing what I think of them. So it's quite lucky.
Maxine Faulkner was turned down by DMB&B. She accepted a job at Abbott Mead Vickers, London's 3rd largest agency.
They're chasing a job as a ship's entertainment officer in next week's programme, 9:45 BBC 2.